really like in real life. So this is a good change. Let's get straight into it. This specific session is looking at beyond Gaza, maintaining the flame of activism. And the idea behind this session isn't to think of something that isn't related to Gaza, or not to center Palestine in our discussions, but the idea is to look further as well, and what our state as a nation, as an ummah, as a people, and as a humanity will look like, and what it should look like. We know as Muslims that regardless of the trials and tribulations that we are, inshallah, able to overcome, there will always be trials and tribulations. This is the purpose of our life here on this earth. So if it is not Palestine, it's Kashmir. If it's not Kashmir, it's the Uyghur. If it's not the Uyghur, it's our brothers in Syria or Yemen or other places. So whilst with those discussions, responsibilities in sustaining the movement, the core objective of it is the establishment of justice as best as possible on this earth. So I'll start maybe with some opening remarks, and I'll start with Sister Munia first, and then we'll come around, and then we'll go around the other way, inshallah.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all. It is a privilege and an honor to be at the stage with my brothers, some of them fellow Canadians as well. And actually, I was thinking about you know, what you have said and what the topic of this discussion. It's very important. I have been sort of thinking about this for a long time when we are fighting Islamophobia in this country, before what happened on 7th of October and now beyond what happened on October 7th. And one of the first things that would come to my mind as an activist, as an author, human rights activist as well, I noticed that our community is in lack of stories. It is in lack of, when I say stories, it's not only the stories that we have been told when we were kids, but it's stories about ourselves. And I think this is part, of course, of colonialism, because colonialism, what it does is that it erases the story and the history. And I think since then we have not been able to say who we are. And I hope that with, you know, in Islam, in the Quran, we have many verses that says, or that kind of, you know, indicate this idea of there is always something good out of the bad. And what's going on since October 7th and up to now, it has been a lot of it bad news. But among the rebels, among those bad news, I think it is really a moment of rediscovering who we are through, you know, our history, but also through today. New models, role models, new stories. I think it's very important. We have been, probably many of you grew up on watching TV, watching stories of Hollywood. You know, this insidious form of self-hating. We don't like who we are, or we think that we are those, allow me to use this expression, I know it's bad, or those savages, those berbers, right? So I think we have been internalized this idea, but I think today, when we've seen what happened in Gaza, I think there is a screen that came out of our gaze, and we see who are the savages, who are the ones who are doing the killing, who are the ones who are killing men, women, and children. Who are the ones who are destroying the building, erasing. So I think it is really important today to have these voices. Maybe some of them have been silent. It's the time to say, to tell these stories, our stories. And it's not easy, it will take time. It can be movies, videos, and I'm so happy. I'm very, very happy when I was, you know, I was asked several times, so what do you take out of this? Where do you see hope out of this? And the first thing I mentioned, and alhamdulillah, I don't say that, you know, to be pretentious. I think I said that because that was before the encampments before the youth. And I said, I see the hope in the new generation. When I have seen the demonstration in Montreal, in Ottawa, and I remember very well the one in Ottawa where a lot of people came from all across Canada, I thought, this is new. I never seen such organized protest, such eloquent speakers, and most of all, very courageous people. Those speeches, you don't hear them before. So yes, there is a lot of hope. Don't really despair. I have a moment of despair, but also I think when I see those new, like this new generation, those young people who are not scared, who are very eloquent, who are very educated in terms of they know their history and they can tell their stories. You know, I will end with this here. We have some of you have heard about what the CBC, our public broadcaster here in Canada, what it has been doing. Erasing the word Palestine since 2020, that's happening. So they don't even use the word Palestine. And what they have been doing, I mean, more recently we discovered that they don't allow Palestinians to tell their story, or if they allow them, they will just give them, they will edit the work. So those Palestinians, they said, we want to be live. And I thought this is amazing. They want to tell their story live, so they are not censored. So I think with Gaza, with the destruction, with the death toll rising and rising, with the politicians showing their real faces, I think there is now a new chapter for us to tell our stories. You can start with TikTok, you can start with, as simple as that, and finish with books, with movies, with series, and with newspaper. So the ball is actually in our camp today.
We will go deeper into some personal experiences, inshallah. I'll try and give everybody 4 minutes as an opening, 3 to 4 minutes, and then we'll go into some questions. Dr. Dehabat.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. I'm glad to be with you in this blessed gathering. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you for being here today. My quick notes before we start the discussion, starting from the book that we just heard about. We are going through an exceptional moment, I think, in our ummah, and we need to seize this moment. Now, any ummah, any nation, any community goes through rise and fall, ups and downs, and I think we have been a while receiving conflicting and struggling and bad news, and we started to see another vibe recently. We started to see people started to move on another pace. So this is the first time, at least in the last few years, that you would see people, they started to protest, to move, to organize events, to donate, to do all what they can, based on inspiring with the model that they see in Gaza. So what we experience today is different than what we experienced before at 2008, 2012, 2014, 2021. In some of these difficult situations, especially in Gaza and Palestine in general, I was there, and I was here in Canada and in different locations in the world, and most people would protest because they feel sorry about people in Palestine and Gaza, and they want to support them. But today, they don't only feel sorry about those who were oppressed, but they feel inspired with this sense of resilience and patience and strength and bravery. And this is a very exceptional moment, inspired with a group of people standing in their land, standing up for the truth, defending al-haq, defending the truth, and we should take it from there. So this is now our responsibility going forward, and really this is an important discussion today to figure out how to keep that going.
This is like their opening, and we're gonna actually go on. But this is very nice.
Assalamu alaikum. Good to be here with you. I'm honored to be here, certainly on this panel. Today is a very important day, and as many of you heard, the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court today recommended the most serious charges in the history of our world against Israel. And it was something that we thought was an impossibility for months, and many people would tell you they thought this was an impossibility for years. The truth is, and this is something we said in our session earlier, without the inspiration and motivation and determination of people all around the world, including here in Canada and the United States, where we are the primary funders of the very genocide that we loathe and hate. Therefore, we have a simultaneous responsibility, maybe even a more serious responsibility, to protest against it, knowing that it's our tax dollars that are funding the very thing that we despise. Those charges that were recommended today, as we see, has not stopped the genocide. Bombs continue to fall today. I spoke to former prosecutor at the ICC just a few minutes ago, texting with him while we were here. He said that he thought it could actually take 2 to 3 months until the judges of the ICC formally sign off on those charges. So we have good news and bad news, which is often a trend. But it's hopeful because often we're looking for signs that all of the work that we have done, all of the efforts we have put in, that there is some possibility of this coming to an end. This is at least a hint, a semblance of justice. So I just wanted to say thank all of you who have donated, who have protested, who have organized, who have posted, spoken out in any way that you can. Because and I know this because you've told me, it often feels like nothing you're doing is making a difference. But I hope when you see something like lead prosecutor of the ICC standing before the world and saying, no, we investigated this. I saw the notes from the prosecutor. He said, while we are filing 7 primary charges against Israel, that in essence, it's millions of charges. One of the charges is starvation. There's not a single case of starvation. There are millions of cases. In fact, there are millions of cases every day. So there are hundreds of millions of instances of forced starvation alone. And you already knew this, but it is profoundly important for the most important prosecuting body of the world to say the thing you've been saying is indeed true. And factually, we believe we can prove it before a court of law. So we're all sometimes grasping for clues and hints that all that we're doing is making a difference, and today is one of those clues. And there is nothing that encourages me more when I see my sisters and brothers in Gaza who are inspired by something, and it was inspirational for them today to see the ICC recommend these charges. And yes, I have critiques of the charges, and they could be better, and I have a lot of thoughts about it, but it is progress. And I hope that you understand that every one of us, it's all of our efforts combined to make those kinds of things possible.
Sister, I want to ask you about a personal experience that you had. We heard an introduction about you that your husband was deported to one of the most brutal regimes out there, tortured. The campaign to bring him back home, the campaign to get some sort of justice for him, takes a lot of stamina. And maybe one would be excused after going through something like this to then want to live a quiet life after that, not really necessarily be involved. You've done your share, you've suffered your part. And maybe that is a feeling that a lot of people will feel throughout this period, that inshallah when the bombs stop and there is an end to this genocidal war, that okay, I've protested for 10 months, there's no need to continue, I've done my part. What would your message be to people about that?
After going time, your ordeal, to decide to just keep quiet, like very simple and very low profile life, because I think it's not easy to be under the limelight, not for always the good reason. Sometimes, you know, when you have been going through like terrorism charges and those things, you want to hide, you don't want to live with that stigma. But I think what we have learned, if we have learned, and I hope we have learned a lesson with the genocide going on in Gaza, is that really this, you know, it's not a matter of doing our duty, getting things back to life. I don't think there will be, I don't see personally there is any way to go back to pre-October 7th. I think today what we have seen is that we are seeing some countries, of course the United States with the complicity of Canada and Britain and most of the powerful Western countries who are called liberal democracies, deciding to just